I mean, it could happen. I mean, why not? If Crawford wanna challenge himself to be great, let him try to be great. So you know what I'm saying. I'm with it. So I'll be going for Bud. If he fight Canelo, I'll be going for him.
Well, the latest is, we signed and contracted to do a rematch, and that's what it is right now.
Do you know when it's going to be, when we can hear?
I don't got no date right now, but I know that's the next fight that Terence Crawford.
How long do you think it will be before we have some news about that?
I don't know. It's still up in the air, given the first male boxer, undisputed, in any division in a 4-belt era, and I honor, that, and if he was to come to me or activate his...
The sport is in chaos again. Just when it seemed like Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. had gone their separate ways, talks for a rematch are suddenly back on the table as of April 2025. And this time, they are not just rumors. Negotiations are happening behind the scenes. Both fighters are discussing it, and tensions are rising fast, with Crawford already challenging Spence's position in boxing. Let's catch you up.
I wanted to see that immediately after that fight, but now time has kind of ran its course. I don't want to see Errol. I just don't want to see Errol get done like that again. That's all. And I believe Errol Spence is a generational talent, great fighter.
Crawford and Spence have never been the type to hold back. As the talks start turning into reality, they are getting louder, taking shots at each other in interviews on social media. And now, even during a heated live exchange, Spence, who has been out of the ring since his brutal loss to Crawford in 2023, is more fired up than ever. He is pushing hard for this rematch, claiming that the first fight didn't tell the full story, that he was drained at 147 pounds, and that the weight cut took everything out of him. Crawford, however, is reminding everyone what happened the last time they stepped in the ring, how he knocked Spence down 3 times, and how the fight wasn't even close. But Spence refuses to accept that narrative. He is still convinced that at 154 pounds, everything changes.
You gonna knock my first?
Because I don't want us personally, we talking about what we want to see. I don't want to see it. Because I know what it's going to look like. The same as it looked last time.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Errol Spence wasn't the same.
What was wrong with him?
He looked slow. He looked he looked sluggish.
Why?
I can't tell you. I wasn't in camp.
At the division, he dominated for his entire career. All of a sudden, when it came time for this fight, he looked different. Why?
I wasn't in camp with him. I can't tell you. I don't know if his body finally broke down from being at 147 for too long.
This entire rematch situation has been a roller coaster since the moment Spence exercised the rematch clause after their first fight. When Crawford destroyed him in July 2023, Spence wasted no time triggering the clause, determined to get another shot. But the contract was clear. Unless either fighter submitted written notice stating they couldn't make 147 pounds, the rematch would take place at welterweight again. Spence never officially filed that notice, but he and his team kept insisting that the fight should happen at 154 pounds. Crawford wasn't having it. He had no reason to give Spence an advantage after beating him so decisively. And that's where the standoff began.
Can be made, but weight can be used as an excuse and sort of say, I don't feel like it. Like, I'll go up to for this guy, but not another guy. So, that's sort of the spirit. The language is very, more precise and very definitive. But the concept is, out of fairness, is, let's not be selective.
Then Spence's health issues slowed everything down. Eye surgery, the recovery, and doubts about whether he could even return to form. While Spence was dealing with all that, Crawford moved on. He won another title at 154 by beating Israel Madrimov and shut down any talk of a rematch. When reporters asked him about it, he barely acknowledged the possibility. Nah, he said, dismissing it completely. That moment, it looked like the rivalry was over for good.
Question, but I want your reaction. Is a Errol Spence rematch on the table still, or?
Nah.
All right, we're gonna wrap that. I'm trying to tell you.
But now, things are shifting fast. Crawford is no longer shutting the door completely, and Spence is ramping up the pressure, calling him out every chance he gets. Most fans are saying Spence deserves another shot, that the weight cut really did affect him, that it wasn't the real Spence in the ring that night. Others are calling that an excuse, saying he got exposed and that a rematch would look the same no matter what weight class it happens in.
I believe that the fight would have went that way regardless, because stylistically, the fundamentals on that level, Crawford is just outclasses Errol Spence in every single category.
Spence, though, is making this personal, that he is openly accusing Crawford of ducking him, of trying to walk away from the contract, of acting like the fight never existed just because he got the upper hand the first time. Crawford, never one to let someone dictate the narrative, is firing right back, that he is telling Spence he had his chance, that he got dominated, that he didn't even look like he belonged in the ring with him.
47, but I'm sure he probably gonna push the weight up, but there's not gonna be no change in the decision. The performance still is gonna be the same. Might be even a little bit better. So, he might want to watch out before he activate the rematch.
And now, in real time, both fighters are making it clear that they are ready to go to war again. Spence, despite everything, is still confident. He is saying that Crawford has never fought him at full strength, that he wasn't himself in that first fight, and that he's going to prove everyone wrong. Crawford, on the other hand, is almost laughing at the idea that anything will be different to him. Spence is always overrated. His style is too predictable. And if they got in the ring again, he would beat him even faster the second time. The trash talk is getting more intense by the day. And with both men finally admitting that talks are happening, this fight is looking more real than ever.
Let's go! As you can see, man, breaking news, Errol Spence then activated that rematch clause to fight Terence again, right? Let's be honest, we all saw the fight. Crawford beat boogers out that boy.
However, this trash talk is already causing waves in the sport. Terence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson have always been tight. Their bond built on years of respect, mentorship, and shared ambitions. But now their views on Errol Spence Jr.'s legacy are splitting them into opposite corners. Crawford, never one to sugarcoat his opinions, has ignited a firestorm by outright dismissing Spence's Hall of Fame credentials. Meanwhile, Stevenson, one of the sport's brightest young champions, isn't having it. The disagreement is stirring heated debates among fans, analysts, and even fighters, with opinions clashing over what truly defines a Hall of Fame career.
That's a good win. I'm still a fan. I hope he do well. But once it got to the point where I moved up in weight and I'm in the same weight as Spence, it's just like, oh man, you ain't fighting nobody. You this, you that, you this, you that. So now they trying to blemish my accomplishment just to boost him up. I'm like, dude, you're not gonna do that, because I can retire right now and be in the Hall of Fame. He couldn't. Everything that I've accomplished, he's still trying to accomplish. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on him. I honestly don't know if he make it to the Hall of Fame with the accolades that he didn't got right now.
Crawford set this controversy in motion during an appearance on the Pound for Pound podcast with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo. He didn't hesitate when the topic of Spence's legacy came up. In his view, Spence doesn't make the cut. His reasoning: Spence only fought in one division. While he acknowledged Spence's accomplishments, unifying 3 welterweight titles, defeating top-tier opponents like Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, and Ydenis Ugas, Crawford was firm in his belief that it wasn't enough to TO him. A Hall of Famer is someone who conquers multiple weight classes, builds an undeniable resume, and proves their greatness beyond a single division.
Discredit one of the best wins on your resume. It starts to make people look at your resume with a question mark. Terence Bud Crawford.
That statement shook the entire boxing community. Crawford didn't just critique Spence's career. He effectively shut the door on any discussion of his place in boxing history. And that's why everyone in the sport is reacting. Fans and experts are calling him out for downplaying Spence's achievements. Some see it as unnecessary disrespect. Others feel Crawford is just being honest. But the most surprising pushback didn't come from analysts or former fighters. It came from Shakur Stevenson, one of Crawford's closest friends. When asked about Crawford's comments during an interview with Best Women's Boxing Show, Stevenson was quick to disagree. "I feel as though Errol had a great career," he said, standing firm in his stance. "If it wasn't for Bud, he would have been undisputed. So he went and got every belt one by one. I think he's a Hall of Famer." His words cut through the narrative Crawford was trying to push, offering a different perspective. Point one that recognized Spence's dominance before their fight, and what could have been if Crawford hadn't been in his way.
Went on Pound for Pound podcast, and he said that Errol Spence will not be a Hall of Famer. Can you just give me your thoughts on that?
I disagree.
You disagree? Why do you disagree?
I feel as though Errol had a great career. If it wasn't for Bud, he would have been undisputed. So he went and got every belt one by one by one. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Stevenson's stance highlights an ongoing struggle in boxing's Hall of Fame, debates the DO accomplishments across multiple divisions determine greatness, or can a fighter cement their legacy by ruling a single weight class? Stevenson clearly believes that Spence's dominance at 147 was enough, but Crawford isn't budging. For him, being a unified champion in one division, even with Spence's level of success, isn't enough for immortality.
I don't think Errol's run was long enough, no Diddy, to automatically put him in the Hall of Fame. He was a very good fighter. If there was a Hall of Very Good, he would be going into that. But Hall of Fame, no. If you were in charge of writing the Hall of Fame speech for Errol Spence, and I was in charge of writing a Hall of Fame speech for Bud Crawford, my Hall of Fame speech, listing my credentials, listing my accolades for Bud Crawford, would sound a lot better than your speech for Errol Spence, bro. Yeah, I don't think unifying and holding 3 titles automatically push you in the Hall of Fame.
The tension between Crawford and Stevenson might not be a full-blown rift, but it's certainly creating waves. Their friendship has always been built on mutual respect. But this is one of the rare times they publicly disagree on something major. Stevenson isn't just another fighter giving his opinion. He's someone who has spent years learning from Crawford, training with him, and looking up to him. So for him to go against Crawford's take so directly speaks volumes that IT also raises questions about how their relationship might be affected in the long run.
It's up to him. He gave me that opportunity to fight him. It's only right that if that's what he want to do, I'll give it back to him. Outside of him, I was definitely looking for that Jamel Charlo fight, but they just stripped him for the WBO. So now it's going to be kind of hard, becoming a 3-weight world champion if you don't come back and fight Tim Tszyu and be successful after his fight with Canelo.
Adding fuel to the fire, Hall of Fame discussions are notoriously political, and Spence's case is already sparking division among boxing's inner circle. Some argue that Spence's ability to bounce back from adversity, surviving a life-threatening car crash, and still defending his titles, makes his resume even more Hall of Fame worthy. Others believe Crawford is setting a dangerous precedent by discrediting single division champions, as many legends built their entire legacies in one weight class.
Say Crawford is a hell of a fighter, but I don't really respect his resume. What? Other than fighting you. Crawford? You know what I'm saying? I don't really respect his resume like that.
And there's another layer to this debate, Crawford's history with Spence. Some are saying his comments aren't just about Hall of Fame standards, they're personal. That Crawford is trying to erase Spence's legacy because of their rivalry, to make sure history remembers him as the superior fighter. If Spence gets into the Hall of Fame, it forces the world to acknowledge that he was an all-time great, even if Crawford beat him. And Crawford might not be ready to accept that.
Airwaves of YouTube. Let me make a plea right now to Terence Crawford. I understand you just beat him. You beat him thoroughly. You're the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, the WBO, the WBA, the WBC, the IBF titles, but you hugged him after the fight for a reason. I am making a plea to Terence Crawford, even if you elect to give Errol Spence Jr. a rematch. Please do not do this for at least a year. Please don't do that.
Meanwhile, Spence hasn't responded publicly to Crawford's comments, but of course, it's safe to assume that he's not happy about it. He has always taken pride in what he has accomplished in boxing, and being dismissed so easily by Crawford is only adding fuel to his competitive fire. There are even talks that Spence might use this as extra motivation for their potential rematch, wanting to prove that he is not just a great fighter, but an all-time great, worthy of a Hall of Fame, no matter what Crawford says.
It ain't like Errol can't take him. I think he's the bigger, stronger fighter, but Errol methodically marches down and breaks you down. I don't know if that can be done to Crawford. I think that Crawford is a marvelous boxer. I think he's got the temperament of a champion that really wants to do damage and be spectacular. He can fight conventional. He can go southpaw. He brought the power with him. And I think the biggest thing is that Errol Spence might have gave him a little bit too much time.
The debate isn't dying down anytime soon. Fans, fighters, and analysts are all picking sides. Is Crawford speaking facts, or is he letting his rivalry with Spence cloud his judgment? Is Stevenson right for standing up for Spence, or is he just being diplomatic? The boxing world is watching, and as the back and forth continues, one thing is certain: this isn't just about a Hall of Fame induction. It's about legacy, pride, and the never-ending battle for respect in one of the most unforgiving sports in the world.
Y'all support y'all fighter. Let's come together, make this event a success. Instead of everybody saying every time we get together, you know what I mean, it's always shooting and violence. Everybody know Team Crawford. Y'all know I get active.
But if there's anyone whose Hall of Fame status should be in question, it's not Errol Spence Jr., it's Terence Crawford. Forget all the smoke and mirrors. Forget the carefully crafted legacy talk from his camp. The truth is plain as day. Crawford isn't chasing history, he's chasing checks. And that's the real reason fans, fighters, and critics alike are beginning to question whether his name belongs in the Boxing Hall of Fame.
This is what I think about resumes, and especially when it comes to these two fighters specifically, because they got a lot of the common opponents.
Yes.
But the day that they fought these opponents is what's uncommon. And so you can pick who you want to pick, and I fought him, and he had I broke both eyes, and then you fought all this and that. Bottom line is, a lot of fighters aren't who they are on Tuesday. They're not that same fighter on Saturday.
You are absolutely
That's the
right.
bottom line.
Crawford's own trainer, Brian Bomac McIntyre, is out here peddling the same tired line, trying to convince the world that the Canelo Alvarez fight isn't about money. But really, who do they think they're fooling? Crawford is jumping 2 divisions to face the biggest cash cow in boxing. Not because it makes sense for his career, but because the Saudi money is just too good to pass up. If Crawford's legacy was really his priority, he wouldn't be making this reckless jump. He'd be cementing his dominance at 154, proving himself against the monsters in that division. Maybe even unifying again. But he barely scraped by against Israel Madrimov. The moment that fight was over, it was clear Crawford was never going to run through 150 for the way he did at 147.
154, because this is the legacy fight. He wants this for his legacy. Now, if you ask me, I think Terence Crawford's taking it to the stupid. He's not going up there for no damn legacy fight. You know what? He's going after Canelo for the reason that he said after he fought Madrimov and after he fought Errol Spence. He wants the most money possible. Simple. He's not trying to move down the ladder and shift into reverse.
The younger, hungrier lions were waiting, and instead of meeting them head-on, Crawford found an escape route. The biggest payday boxing has to offer. And let's talk about this Madrimov fight for a second. Fans know what they saw. It wasn't the destruction job Crawford put on Spence. It wasn't some highlight reel masterclass. It was a war, a fight that easily could have been a draw, and that's against a guy who, while talented, isn't exactly the king of the division. If Crawford struggled there, what business does he have jumping to 168 against a seasoned champion like Canelo?
Old videos are starting to surface of Terence Bud Crawford saying he'd never go over 154 pounds, and weight classes are there for a reason. And so a lot of people are questioning, why is he willing to move up to 168 for Canelo all of a sudden? He's going against his own word. It's a money grab. It's duh, bruh.
But that's the thing. Crawford doesn't care about earning his way up the weight classes. He doesn't care about taking on the real challenges in those divisions. He just wants the biggest name, the biggest fight, the biggest payday. And when this is all said and done, when the Canelo fight is over, does anyone actually believe he's staying at super middleweight? Of course not. He'll take his money, take his loss, because that's what's most likely coming, and then figure out his next move. That's not a Hall of Fame mindset. That's a cash grab.
He want 200 million for Benavidez, and he want 150 million to fight me. So that just lets me know right there that I'm a threat to him. I'm a threat to him. I'm a threat to his legacy.
And this isn't the first time Crawford has taken the easy road to the bank. For years, people questioned his resume at 147. They asked why he wasn't fighting the best names sooner. They asked why he stayed under the top-ranked banner for so long when all the biggest fights were happening elsewhere. And now, when he finally had the chance to prove himself at 154, he didn't stay long enough to do anything meaningful. This is the same Crawford who said Spence isn't Hall of Fame material because he only dominated one division? Really? The same Spence who beat the best of the best at 147, unified titles the hard way, and was undefeated until he ran into Crawford? Meanwhile, Crawford ran through an average welterweight division, barely survived at 154, and is now skipping past the real killers at 160 and 168 just to cash out against Canelo.
Heard what Bud said. Weight classes for a reason. But then Bud and his team heard the TBV show. Then it's like, yo, you know what? Bud, we could throw the towel in. We gonna shimmy all the way to the bank. We gonna drop this 9 figures in the bank. We got you. Do we believe we could beat them? Yeah. What other opportunity in life are you gonna get to make